sorry, Wijnand, are you still releasing your code open source, or are you keeping it proprietary?
Not at the moment, but we are going to release.
I just encourage you to not make the decision to open source it until later on down the road.
Is it because you're scraping GitHub?
Obviously. Well, no, guys, just as a really simple thing, I can give you a piece of advice. There's so much content being created in this space that's being available, being produced for free right now in terms of ideation and experimentation. If you just scrape all the GitHub repos and you can scrape the Discord data off of the main ChatGPT channels and the Reddit to the main Reddit, the 4 Reddits that are talking about it, if you can scrape all that data, I don't know when it'll be useful or valuable, but I guarantee that there is probably some value in that. And it's probably something that each of you independently could set up and do individually in a day. So if other people aren't doing it, that's their problem. I would encourage you to do it and not tell anyone about it and keep it to yourself.
Yeah, so we can get a head start, right?
Yeah, get the head start. Also, capture all the wisdom that is being produced out there, that is being, and save it so that if someone changes their mind to make it private later, that's fine. That's fine. But at least you'll have access to the version that they were comfortable making public when it was public.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, I mean, the thing is that I think people should start taking into account is that these large language models are very intelligent, and even if people are not going to use the thing that you are sharing right now, open source right now, they might be able to use it half a year down the road or a year later when they have automations set up to do it automatically on a much, much bigger scale.
That's what I'm thinking right now. I don't know any of those repos or any of that Discord stuff that I'm capturing. I don't know when I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming that there's value in what's being done because I've seen it like 1,000 times on GitHub already.
Yeah.
Sure
and another thing that I'm seeing too is that a lot of companies are turning more private now because of the scraping, right? Because of, for example, Quora, I believe, they introduced the premium model, and it's some questions you cannot even see the answer of anymore, for example. But I think now with the new AI large language models, it's much easier to scrape information and use it in a powerful way. And a lot of companies are becoming more private on their own data, or more protective on their data.
So the only message I'd try to suggest to all of you is look at all the great stuff that's being published open source right now and save it for future use, and be very careful with what you are publishing, because other people might get value off of it without you necessarily knowing. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys think that's different from the history of open source, where kind of like open source is it's almost like a move fast, like I guess open source where you have like old school patents and trademarks and things like that, where it's like it's always nice to get it, but like the software moves so fast, and actually the biggest moat that you have is kind of just your ability to move fast, deliver value, and kind of produce content. What do you guys think?
I would give you a suggestion, Chris. I don't think that regulations like trademarks are going to affect a global AI company unless the AI company voluntarily submits to them. Because legally, they could be a company in Turks and Caicos. Their legal entity could be Turks and Caicos, providing services over the internet. And as long as they can accept money for those services, regulating a company that's truly global and that could have 100 different corporate headquarters on paper would be incredibly difficult, because they just, if one service isn't allowed to be delivered by a company in the US, you have it delivered by the entity that's registered in Poland or any other country.
Yeah, generally I agree. I think even if they win the lawsuit at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of too late. I guess they'll monetize.
Regulation is never going to move fast enough and never going to be applicable.
It's kind of like the cat's out of the bag. Yeah.
I think it's a voluntary thing. I mean, let me be wrong. Fine. I'm going to figure out the regulatory people. I've already had some discussions with some people who are involved in AI regulation. But I don't see how anyone can regulate my business unless I submit voluntarily, which I will do. That's part of who I am.
So are you talking about copyrights and that kind of thing?
I'm just saying in general regulation, whether trademarks, whether like restrictions on what is taught, what is released to the public, etc. OpenAI has a physical operation in the US. They have offices and stuff like that. The FBI can raid them. My team is going to be completely virtual and distributed everywhere in the world. So I think it's a voluntary thing. I know. I just want to be clear to all of you. I am going to comply with whatever the best practices of regulation are. However, I don't see how, like, if I wanted to avoid regulation, I think that my company and other companies like me can just do it with willy-nilly. So the potential for bad actors of companies like mine is very possible.
Certainly, yeah.
Because my company, I'm assembling people with the right values and ethics, and we will do the right thing. Lots of people will create companies that are just going to try and make money out of this.
Yeah, totally. Actually, Rick had an interesting article in just there in chat there too about this, where Getty. I'm not sure if everyone knows Getty, but Getty has a huge repository of images. I think they are related to the Getty family, which was a huge oil-producing family in the U.S.
They're massive.
Massive. And I guess they shoveled a bunch of money into images. And I guess it seems like, it was Stable Diffusion, which is kind of like a Midjourney or DALL-E. They have been using their images, very likely without total consent. And what's interesting in that article, actually, I read the headline, then scrolling down just a little bit, there's an image in there that literally shows the Getty logo, which Getty has watermarked their images. I guess Stable Diffusion wasn't able to kind of rip that out to make it. So they basically been caught, and I think
there's all the signatures on the bottom right corner of so many art because they're literally taking proprietary art.
That's gonna be very hard.
That's hilarious because that's the interesting thing about these AI models, right? Because they completely remove the ability for people to get the exact same image back. It's always going to be a bit different, but maybe because they have a big training set on their images, they still return the watermark, which was.
But let me pause
so it is still possible to see that it has used that as a source, but it's getting harder, right? Because earlier you can just see if it is a similar text, if the similarity is very easy to detect. But now with the large language models, it's much harder to detect, and that's also a big problem in regulation that they are very far behind on, I think.
So let me give you guys a perfect scenario to role play it with you. My ex-girlfriend is a children's author, an illustrator, an artist. Let's say I gave her money and she fought lawsuits because she found out that her artwork had been used, her IP had been used in Stable Diffusion, right? She'd have to file a lawsuit against Stable Diffusion, or like the company behind Stable Diffusion, the company behind DALL-E, the company behind each and every individual tool about their copyright. She'd need to organize probably a class action lawsuit. And which jurisdiction is she going to sue them in? She's based in the Philippines. How is she going to sue them in the US or wherever their corporate HQ is? And how many years is it going to take for the regulatory and legal systems to figure out how to appropriately handle an AI copyright case like that? I don't think it's going to be simple or easy. And as Chris said earlier, I think the cat's out of the bag. You guys tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be much harder now to win that kind of thing because it's less obvious, right? If your copyright is being violated, especially also with text, not only with images. But
even if it's obvious, what are you gonna do about it? What's your mechanism? What is a Filipino's artist's mechanism to have the funds to sue a US-based massive entity?
Yeah,
that's why this Getty one is interesting, because Getty is actually so big, right? They probably would be
So Getty can put $1 billion into a legal team to crush any AI company that's used their copyrighted materials. That's possible.
Yeah.
But then, but, you know that because of this controversy, there's going to be all sorts of ethical AIs coming out for image generation shortly that are doing the same thing that these 3 existing big tools are doing. They're just going to do it trained better and with more ethics and with better, with more appropriate source content and stuff like that. So I think very quickly there are going to be ethical and completely appropriate to the art community tools. I don't know how they're going to look. I'm not an image guy. I'm not an artist, but I expect that we're going to see them soon. You guys tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's gonna, it's gonna be interesting. Like, well, that Getty case, I probably most of this stuff I don't really bother myself with too much because I just kind of keep building it as fast as I can just to kind of keep up. But the Getty case will be interesting because I guess I don't know. Even for instance, like if you are an AI and you just scrape Google Images, where it's like you're not going to the Getty repository directly, and it's just like you're saying, well, we just got a scrape from Google, and it was a screenshot from Google. It's like, does Getty still own that original image? Blah blah blah. And there's like, that's basically like a case that I don't even want to look at or consider because it's just going to be such a headache. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. Like if you take a screenshot of an image and cut off like half of the pixels, is it still the original image or is it a different image? Who knows, right? It's a very very complex case, and I'm sure that a lot of lawyer bills will be racked up there. That being said, well, there was a couple. Rick put a nice list in of all these new AIs and all these different tools, and one that there's 2 things that I found useful for I guess immediately. And the first one was an email writing tool. And so last week we had talked about it. There was one of the girls, she came in and her and her husband were developing that kind of email response tool. One of everyone's kind of response really quickly was just like, you'd like to have a prompt that you could respond to the email as opposed to using their auto-generated email where you kind of just click a button. So there's Rick found a plugin for Google Chrome. I think it's called like Gmail. Okay.
Have you seen Superhuman for email?
I've seen like the Superhuman email interface. I'm not sure if they've integrated with AI in any way.
No, which tool did you mean, Chris?
Yeah, it's Rick had it in the chat there. I'll see if I can find it quickly.
Superhuman, the Superhuman tool is AI based, and it is the best that I've seen for email comms. I don't know, you can tell me if you've seen better. It's the best I've seen. However, I have serious privacy concerns about it because when I signed up, before I paid, as I was signing up, it gained access to my Google account and got permissions to download all my email history for the last 30 years that I've had my account. So I got my details deleted. I have some privacy concerns about the fact that that was possible to happen, considering I never actually paid them a cent and I was able to and I didn't complete the registration process. However, their tool on the surface looks the best email kind of tool that I've seen. The other one that I'd highly recommend, OpenAI's venture team has funded, and it's called mem.ai. And mem.ai is like my literal favorite thing right now.
Is that also integrating with email, or?
I'm using that.
Yeah, it also can connect to email. I have not connected it to my account yet because I was waiting to connect it to my work account because I don't want it to have access to 30 years of my email. I want it to just connect to my work account. So yes, mem.ai is brilliant, and it allows me to capture information and recall information faster than anything that I've ever seen. And I've used Evernote and tools like it for 20 years.
I've been moving my Notion stuff also to Mem, kind of everything. Like I recently just went through all my notes and my my iPhone app, the notes. I have so much stuff there. I moved it all to Mem, put some nice text to it. And the Notion stuff that I've been doing recently, put it all to Mem. Much easier. Just need to get it into my workflow.
I don't need a folder system anymore. It just organizes automatically.
Exactly.
It's
good for my AJC brain.
I mean, I'm obviously gushing over someone else's product. I haven't met those guys, but I mean, I'm in love. So I think Superhuman is cool. I haven't actually used it because of my concern that I mentioned. But I have reached out to their management team to discuss. And mem.ai, like Rick said, is just my favorite thing ever. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's amazing how somebody spin up so quickly.
Have you seen Try Ellie? I saw that through my Twitter, and it's also a plugin for email. It has a different approach, a more simple one, I think.
No, I haven't seen that. Can you
can
pop it
just
over?
click, when you reply to someone, you can click the emotion you want to convey and whether or not you're interested.
I think I saw a video on Twitter, but I haven't actually tried it.
Yeah, I think this is also a very cool little tool, that you can make in a day.
Yeah, there's so many. The possibility for innovation right now is just so wild.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys, I know 4 or 3 of you. Diana, I don't know if I pronounced that. You're the only one I haven't interacted with before. Maybe you could introduce yourself, and maybe I don't know. I don't know if you know everyone. This is the first time I've been on a call with you.
Okay.
And Rick, I don't think we've been on one call before. I think.
Yeah.
No.
No, Rick and I have been on one call, but Chris and Wijnand I've been on multiple calls with. So yeah, is it Diana?
Yeah, it's Diana. So I'm first time here with you guys, and I'll be helping Wijnand with operation stuffs and things like that. Maybe a bit of marketing and everything, and just trying to get a grip and to sort everything at space. And I think that it's useful for me to be here at this meeting just to learn more from all of you guys and to maybe catch up quickly.
Well, Diana, I think you made an amazing choice to work with Wijnand. Amazing. I really believe that what he is working on is one of the most potentially valuable tools.
Great.
Like seriously.
Thank you.
Now, whether it's going to be him or a competitor, I couldn't tell you yet, honestly. We're kind of working together in kind of a flexible relationship right now. I really hope that I'm going to land some sales and bring, that I can support his product in a huge way. Relationship to be determined, Wijnand. I'm not claiming anything in public here, just to, because, our relationship is somewhat ambiguous. So I don't want to be presumptuous, because I was already presumptuous with Chris, and I don't want to fuck up again. Yeah, I'm just really excited. I just wanted to tell you, Diana, I'm really excited that you're on Wijnand's team. I think he's brilliant, and I think that absolutely he's going in the right direction, and I would want nothing more than to be able to throw money at him and a team to do what he's doing and make it better. So what he's doing is just absolutely beautiful, in my humble opinion, and Wijnand will figure out the relationship as we move forward. Is that a fair description, Wijnand?
Yeah. I think we still have to decide on how exactly, and time will tell. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we're just trying to. So Diana and Rick, I don't know, Rick, how much Wijnand has updated you about what we're working on. Yeah. Okay.
Not that much.
Do I have your guys' consent to give a quick introduction to Diana, and then also it's an update for Rick and Chris?
Yeah, sure.
Is that all right with you, Chris?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so Diana, great to meet you. I'm Nick. I've done some pretty cool stuff my entire life. I'm I'm the biggest nerd you've ever met, and you've probably met a lot of nerds. I've spent my life around nerds, and I mean that in the highest possible respectful version. I'm a massive, massive nerd, and I love solving problems. And across the course of my life, I've been lucky enough to be in some amazing positions, to do some really cool projects with amazing people on Wall Street, for the United Nations, for an open source humanitarian agency. I've done disaster response in multiple countries, built more than 1,000 homes. You can look up my LinkedIn. 3 years ago, Amazon's chief technology officer flew to the Philippines to film a documentary about the work that I was doing there. And I'm not saying this to brag because I really don't have much ego in here. I'm just saying it to establish credibility and let you know who you're talking to. Again, not to brag, I really am humble and I hate talking about myself. But what I've done is for 20 years, I've worked with the best people in the world. And in a matter of like 2 weeks, I've pulled together 35 of the best people that I've worked with. There's about 30 people that I've worked with before, and about 5 people like Wijnand that I haven't worked with before. That I brought together to put together the most amazing team to go and take advantage of this AI opportunity as best we can. The business model that we have developed is all about doing one-on-one coaching at a premium level to large corporations, because Fortune 500 corporations do not want their employees learning how to use ChatGPT from TikTok and YouTube. These large entities are going to want to learn about ChatGPT and the other amazing 1,200 other specific use AI tools on the market that may be better, like we were just discussing, mem.ai and Superhuman, and there's literally like 1,200 tools on the market that we can advise our clients on. And the basic business model is mass coaching at scale. And being that I've spent largely a good portion of 10 years in the Philippines doing things like scaling disaster response operations and working with BPOs, I've got all the network there to scale to potentially thousands of people really quickly. It would be irresponsible of me to suggest how quickly I'm going to scale, but I'm going to the Cayman Islands for 10 days to go hang out with the richest people I can find and try and turn them into clients. So by the end of the month, I'm going to know exactly how much money this team of 35 is going to bring in January. Every sale that I do has a minimum margin of 80%. So just think about it as $250 per hour for service delivery to the client that I charge the client. And I pay every one of my staff a minimum of $40 an hour. Some roles will get more, but minimum $40 an hour. So that's an 80% margin, which can potentially and theoretically lead to exponential week-on-week growth. So that's my thing. But really, this organization is all about social good. Well, actually, there's 2 things. So really, it's not about the coaching. It's really about building trust, credibility, and establishing a brand so that we can capture as much of the spend on the $3 trillion AI market by 2030. And I'm not going to say we're going to actually get to like capturing 80% of the AI market. That would be egotistical of me. But if we get 1%, I think everyone on the team is going to be thrilled. So yeah, that's what we're doing. If any of you guys have any questions, Wijnand, how did I do explaining what the team's working on?
Yeah, I think it's a good explanation. It seems like if this is gonna go as you plan, then we're gonna have one of the biggest growth hacks ever. If you can get like week over week growth like that, yeah, this sounds really good. And but I
never dreamed that this was possible, guys. I never dreamed that this was possible because it wasn't 2 months ago. But November 30th, ChatGPT coming out kind of opened. It was this ultra powerful Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's it kind of connects all the other tools that were already there in AI, with like voice, text to speech.
Well, it's the entry. I think it doesn't necessarily connect. It's the entry to educating about the more specific and potentially more valuable tools and verticals, and also identifying different more valuable tools that the market demands that aren't yet there. Or building high corporate versions of public mass market tools like Jasper.ai. Jasper.ai.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Punkesh, the other freelancer I work with, is trying to join, but for some reason he can't join.
I'm not sure actually. I'm looking into that right now.
Okay. Because I don't know how to invite him. I'm just copying the link to him, and then he says it's the wrong room or something. He's the only one there.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to jump in and I'm gonna try to help him. I'll be back.
Okay, thanks.
Nick, The coaches you're looking for, do they have to be full-time coach, or
No,
can they?
I'm right now. I'm not asking. I mean, eventually we would, but right now, really, what the coaches that are coming on board are going to be the trainers for when we scale.
Yeah.
Right. So they still have, say, 2 weeks to study and use ChatGPT and learn everything. Because at the end of January, I fly to the Philippines, find a partner to hire a lot of people. That'll take a week or two to do. Then we'll roll out the training. So by the time the core like 15, 20 coaches on the team out of the 35 are like the trainers right now. And they're learning and ideating and working on the training model and what should they be teaching and how should they be teaching it and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go ahead.
Like various trainings, for example, for a creative company, creative training more that way, or like
it's less training. It's okay. Rick,
production.
Rick, pick a job description and pretend to be that person, and I'll like ideate the dialogue with you for like 60 seconds.
Okay. Like
role play, like a tech person in a healthcare company or a disaster responder at the UN. Just pick any role play.
I'm an assistant in a physiotherapy place.
Physical therapy place, huh? What volume of clients do you have, and what? So, great, Rick. This is amazing to meet you. I mean, I'm so happy to come in and work with your organization. Normally, I would have done some research about your organization before I came to talk to you, but this was kind of an impromptu meeting. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you actually do every day? Like, and what is the volume? Like, are you dealing with hundreds of clients, or doing with like, is it a small workshop? Is it, what's the volume?
I have a team of 10 physiotherapists, and my task is scheduling that their schedule is full, so the clients can come and they get their physiotherapy, and my physiotherapists don't have to think about their calendar.
Okay, that's really simple. I get it. I used to do physiotherapy all the time. I used to be an athlete when I was younger, but I'm 38 and I'm fat now. So, cool. Like, what are some of the frustrating things in your job? What are the pain points? What are the time-consuming, repetitive tasks that you have?
I don't like sending out emails. I don't like doing cancellations and refunds, and I don't like doing schedules for my physiotherapists.
Dude, I hate that stuff. I hate like asking money and like being like, hey, dude, you didn't show up for your appointment. I got to bill you anyway. Like, I hate being a dick. All right. The cool thing is with ChatGPT, man, I'll just give you some prompts, or I'll give you a tool. Pretend I know a tool. Alpha, beta, 1, 2, 3. I give you that tool and the link to it, and there's an affiliate revenue that when you subscribe, I get the revenue every month for annual recurring revenue off of that tool. Or I just give you, okay, so let's pretend I've given you a tool and I'm giving you like a prompt for writing apology emails, cancellation emails, and every time you use that prompt, it'll generate a dynamic email for you that you can just copy and paste, and it might be perfect, not be perfect, but it'll take the stress out of it, and you can just copy and paste it into ChatGPT, add a couple of words about the situation, or just copy and paste like the client's email that they said to you, and you put this prompt in that says, oh, please write a very detailed but kind and polite email, blah, 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 back to the customer. That's really nice. It makes them want to build trust with us, blah, 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 specification. So you just copy their email, copy this prompt, copy the result back to that person, and boom, 10 minutes later, or 2 minutes later, man, you've got an apology email to your client. Like, I'll make you so much more productive. It'll make you so much more productive, and it'll reduce your stress in your job. So I'm going to give you this, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Hey, Rick, you know what? Let's practice it. Okay. So that first prompt, like, take the most recent annoying customer that you have and try that prompt that I just gave you. Okay, blah, 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 coaching. You send me a screenshot and like, okay, that's like amazing, right? That's so cool, isn't it? You're like, oh, wow, yeah, my mind's blown. And then I'm like, sorry, I'm getting excited, but you get the point. And then I'm like, okay. Now, here's some ways that you might make it better. Like, you could also add, like, if you're asking them for money and you're being a dick, you could write a poem to them. a little custom poem about, the fact that their last, and when you're trying to book a client for a new call, maybe you can come up with something fun, like, every time you reach out to a client to try and bring them in to get more revenue for your clients, you can send them like a poem that says, last January 6th, you were here in the office and we miss you. Whatever, like you could just like, have it write a poem about the last visit and the knee problem that you have. And so like every time you reach out, you can just entertain people and you get to have like fun every day doing it. So here's some prompts, here's some stuff. And okay, blah, blah, blah. You ask me some questions. I give you some advice. We're ending up at the end of our 1 hour coaching. I'm being really friendly. You're like, oh man, this guy, Nick or Bob or Rick or whoever it is who's doing the coaching is really cool and really nice. And so at the end of it, I'm like, okay, you mentioned earlier, Rick, you got a couple of kids at home, like they're teenagers, right? Like 12 and 14, you mentioned. Okay, I'm going to give you this prompt. It's a role-playing game. I'm going to give you this prompt where you can write a story for your child and with their name in it. And, you can take it to a bookshop and print it out. And I can give you this like poem writing thing so that when you write greeting cards to your friend, you can be the cool one. I don't know what the right things are. I'm a coach, but here's like 3 ideas at the end of the session that are cool, that are entertaining. All right, so I do that session with you. And before I keep talking, what do you think that hour would go? And what do you think the impression would be of an audience? And what do you think the value is that I could just create in that 1 hour conversation with a person?
Yeah, I have no doubt that it will work. Pretty much. Like
Wijnand, how was my performance?
Yeah, it seems like a good sales pitch.
Yeah,
100%. I was just wondering. I have no doubt that you can sell it to people, and that you can convince people to start using it and can show the good examples. But I have just some more critical questions on how you see these things. What is your thought on privacy regarding AI tools? What is your thought on lock-in? Have you thought about that at all?
Throughout my entire professional career, since I was 17 years old, I have always been bound and regulated by various constraints, legal, regulatory, bylaws, boards of directors, blah, 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 blah. It's entirely normal to have a set of constraints that you operate in, and to do that in the utmost integrity as possible. I've had to implement GDPR in organizations and all sorts of, I've been responsible for the IOM's data protection policy implementation in the UN's data protection policy for 1 million Afghan migrants. I kind of know how to do privacy pretty well. I'm sure there's better experts out there. I'm sure there are. But I kind of know the best practices of data privacy. And, one of the things that I humbly think is that a Fortune 500 company, once they understand how powerful ChatGPT is, should immediately ban it from use. Because you're going to have people putting in private sensitive information into someone else's system without understanding the safeguards. You can't do that at a defense contractor, at a company with classified secrets, with just competitive intelligence. You can, no company, no large scale credible company in the world. Now, the market that we're targeting at the get-go, the 500 to 2,000 person market, they'll probably see the benefits versus the risks, and they'll just say, okay, let's train our staff not to remove all the PII, the personally identified. So we'll train their staff on how to do it right. However, the big corporations will just ban it entirely and then open it up to certain people, potentially, once constraints and controls are in place. So I would guess that every hospital in the world right now should ban ChatGPT until their staff are trained, because they are probably violating HIPAA and other privacy protocols on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. So
and you don't, and if they are or not, You don't know because there's no controls, there's no safeguards.
There's no transparency also, and like, so because I saw in the privacy policy of OpenAI that they are using the data and potentially to train new models, right? So if you would be using it with private health data, health records, then maybe they are in the next model and they will just be output.
Or maybe you just cracked the secret sauce like our company has, in my humble opinion, whatever. You know, and AI, you know, that comes in, and then ChatGPT is like, hey, what is Nick Brown's business model?
Yeah, exactly. Because
and
they
just spits out everything that I talked to it about.
Yeah, you have to opt out in order for them not to be allowed to see it. So
how many corporate IT professionals have even noticed that, Wijnand?
I don't know if people look at the.
I mean, obviously, there's some bright ones out there, but it's definitely like 0.001% because most of them haven't logged into ChatGPT yet, and they've probably got some innovators in their organization that are experimenting it and breaking all sorts of laws.
Yeah, and they might also invent new stuff with ChatGPT that they didn't even know about, and then like OpenAI knows it too, and they're just stealing it because they are allowed to.
You're literally signing a terms and conditions when you log in that anything you put in is not your property anymore.
Exactly.
Now the output is not copyrighted by OpenAI, right? So the output is fine to be yours. That's not an issue. But everything that you put in is theirs to use as they want under the TOS.
Yeah.
And I think that advice alone to CEOs is worth $1 million.
Oh yeah.
So obviously I'm selling coaching, but I'm selling valuable insights like that to the ultra premium market that I know how to navigate.
I really hope that we're going to see some models that are going to be able to be deployed on your own private server farms and stuff. Because, for example, there's Bloom, there's a GPTJ, and there's a couple other ones that are decent, but of course they're nothing like ChatGPT.
And I'm not worried about them for the next 2 or 3 months, Wijnand, because I expect when we have gotten to the training business to scale, and our clients have come to us and be like, oh, please solve us this $30 million problem. We need something like GPT, but running on our servers, on our cloud infrastructure with our security protocols so that we get the advantages of the best LLMs without violating all of the things that we're supposed to follow. So they tell us that problem. It's a $30 million problem or a $30 million opportunity for them, better phrased. And so we charge them $20 million. I turn over to you and your team, and you solve it for like 20 grand.
Possibly.
Okay, I'm exaggerating. But I mean, obviously, the numbers I use are illustrative rather than precise.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I think there's another meeting going on right now in VibeHut because this one didn't work, and there's 3 others there now. So let's move to this one. I'm gonna send you the link in the chat.
Can you pop me the link because thank you.
Yeah, this should be the other one.
Is there any chat here that we have to save? Yeah, there's a couple of good links here. I'm just gonna save before I drop.
I've made some notes. I'll send it in Discord.
Okay. But Rick, before we drop off, this is we've spoke at this more at length now. I mean, Wijnand, introduced us 5 hours ago to talk more about the website. But I was part of this. I mean, I targeted it to Diana, but I was also targeting it to you to bring you.
I know. Yeah, I got the introduction. Who you are? The first call. I was pretty quiet back then, and I saw what you were working on with when you shot it in Discord. And it's super interesting. And when Wijnand told me about the model you're thinking and the big sales funnel behind it, that is definitely I'm also definitely interested to become a coach in that if it's not a full-time job, because I will go into Bali and we will be working on our own products. But I would love to have something.
Rick, I haven't told Wijnand yet, but what I'd really like to see is that you guys turn the Code for Bali thing into a company meetup.
A company
in
meetup?
Bali, and in February. Like, I mean, the same audience, the same type of people, just hopefully all employees and all part of our team.
That would be cool.
Right? Like, I mean, just scale it up a little bit, you know, let's get some money in January. So we've got some funding. Let's, you know, instead of getting people to apply, think about like, who are the 10 coolest people that you might actually like pay $5,000 to come and hang out for a month with you in Bali. And it becomes, you know, and we try and get, maybe Sean goes there to Bali, I go there to Bali, and, you know, and we try and get the brightest mind. We get the brightest minds on the team to Bali to just spend a month of ideating.
Yeah,
and we rent a few villas instead of one villa.
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue now. Like, we were trying to find people, but it's really difficult to find the exact people we need because we want adventurous, experienced, and
so we go out, we tell a sexy story. I can get, you tell me who to recruit for this. You tell me the 10 smartest people that you respect that you would want to attend. I'll do my best to try and get them to come, whether I need to pay them $5,000 and buy a flight or something like that. Like, obviously, I'm honest with everyone, we haven't closed a sale yet, but there's no way we're not going to. So I'm really not worried, and we've got enough money to do the basic stuff up front. So again, not worried. But once we are, like, why don't we go to those people and be like, hey, Bob, the website you're doing is really cool. Tell me more about it. Tell me what your plans are. Like, might you be interested in a team? This is what we've got going on. You know, we're getting together a bunch of great minds under the company. You know, anything that you develop there, you know, remains your own property. But if you want to give it to the company, then you've got a sales and marketing team behind it. And there's some arrangement, like you get 10% of revenue of whatever product is created by you while you're there, something like that. Like, you know.
Yeah, if we would do it our own without the company, for example, it's exactly the same what we want to do, but then it's gonna just take a lot more time, and we don't have that capital. We would take a lot of extra tasks on it. While I think with you, it's the experience with it as well. The experience, the funding.
Rick, do you want a funny story? Do you want to know where I first started my first startup? This is my This is my 9th startup. This is the second one that I've led. Do you want to know where I started my first one? You will love this.
Bali?
Boracay.
What's it?
Boracay. It's the Bali of the Philippines.
Ah, okay.
It's a 7-kilometer long island, 1 kilometer wide at the width. I lived there for 3 years. I went to 0 to 20 with a remote startup doing corporate ethic research and complicated governance stuff. And I can explain that later, but that's not the point. The point is, I growth hacked 15 years ago. No, not 15. 13 or 14 years ago. Okay, don't quote me on the number of years. More than a decade ago, I growth hacked an organization from 0 to 20 by setting up an office in the coolest place in the world that I wanted to be, Boracay, which is like Bali. So I've done it before, and the internet back then sucked. I had no funding and bootstrapped, which sucked. I did not have the network or the credibility that I do now, which sucked. I'm now more than a decade older with all of those things. Yeah. So I'm gonna fucking hell, like, if we want to head office in Bali, like if we want regional offices in Bali and Boracay and Morocco and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, wherever people want to work, well, like, you know, wherever. I mean, the way I would see this company philosophically is, why set up physical offices by requirement? But if people on the team want to congregate, then facilitate that. Like, exactly. rent a house in Bali for, you know, the 10 people that want to hang out there in February.
Yeah, and if you have a nice space, you can also organize real-life workshops, for example. And I think interesting people are there too.
You pay people instead of getting them to pay. And you just get an entirely different caliber of attendee.
Yes, exactly.
And you say, like, you know, come, attend, you describe the terms, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you're basically like, you probably got gigs that you've got. These are the terms, you know, you can just contribute to this stuff, you know, 20 hours a week of productivity. but like hang out and have beers and let's go to the beach and play volleyball every day. And let's, just create ideas together. And I'm pretty sure by the end of the month of hanging out with this group, you will never want to leave this group.
Yeah, true. All right.
Okay, let's jump on to the other group. But now that's like, we cool? Like,
I'm cool.
Okay, so now that, just think about it. I mean, all of that was like the first expression. I haven't even expressed that to Wijnand. However, that would be how I would see the partnership with you and him